Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, World Password Day, huh? Yeah.
World
Well,
password.
change your passwords, everybody. Update your passwords. Um,
Exactly. Keep yourself secure. And we are live on YouTube too.
yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
yeah. It's always best to use protection when
Exactly.
we're talking about passwords. So let us get into this topic, this episode. I'm going to hit recording here
hmm
because we are on a time crunch of
hmm
sorts. Um, let's see. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Three,
Oh man.
two, one. This week, we got another topic suggestion, as we do every week from our viewers. So, as you listen, if you're on the live stream with us, or if you're listening on the audio version, or if you're listening at a later time, leave something in the comments. Leave us a rating and review. Some sort of way to contact us. You can always email us at
hmm
theketchupcast@gmail.com. That's the ketchupcast@gmail.com. You can reach out to us in all sorts of ways. We're live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and we're also on Instagram as well. And each week we talk about the topics that our viewers and listeners submit, and we catch up on those, which is exciting for us because we've learned a lot and we've gotten to connect with all of you in a very unique way. So this week,
hmm
we're talking about the potential for overpopulation.
Yeah.
Um, so, Denison, you were saying that basically the entire population of Texas could
hmm
fit in New York City.
No, sorry. It's the other way around. So it's actually the entire land wise, right? The entire population of the world could fit theoretically. Now, of course, this is all theoretical.
Mm,
Could fit in the
Texas.
land size of Texas
Okay.
with a density thereabout of like Manhattan, or not Manhattan, but of New York City.
Gotcha. But through the entire state. Got it. Okay.
Yes. Now,
Interesting.
this would be
So,
essentially every inch of Texas being covered, but you know.
I I love that University of Texas website has a let's put everybody into Texas page. um, so let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Uh, and why has this topic come up? Let's set the groundwork for that first.
Yeah, of course. I mean, so I got this from my coworker, Micah. He was just kind of telling me a fun fact and stuff like that, and I did think it was kind of interesting because it's really interesting when it comes when it pertains to like overpopulation, um, and like how that kind of can be perceived, I guess, because it's like, if we're truly overpopulated. Now, of course, there are tons of different factors that actually go into overpopulation, and it's more along the lines of overpopulation when it comes to resources that we actually have rather than land, because we do have quite a bit of land, but there's only a
Sure.
certain percentage that we can actually use. Um, but anyway, when it comes to the possibility or even the thought process of us of overpopulation, it's really interesting to think about it when you see it in that kind of thought process, right? Of 7.9 billion people is what we're at right now, all fitting inside of Texas. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I saw something that kind of went through they did the full thought experiment, right? And they said that essentially each person would only have about um, 100 meters, 100 and something meters, square meters, I think it is 100 square meters of space in
Oh
that
wow.
model, which is really small.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
you'd have some spot, you'd have some space. But again, it's kind of just an interesting thought process. And so,
So
yeah, it, or so go ahead.
no, are we talking about this from the standpoint of this would help with the impacts of an overpopulated world or a world that's growing in population?
I think we're talking about this in the thought process of not essentially putting everybody in a small space, but essentially along the lines of um, kind of like where our expectations of overpopulation, or at least I guess where our expectations of overpopulation should lie. Because I
Okay.
think when it comes to overpopulation, we all think of, oh man, we're running out of land, and there's and we're, we're literally in Manhattan, right? Every square inch of the earth is we're in Manhattan, and there's so many dadgum people around and all that other good stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where in reality, right, it wouldn't be something like that. It would be more along the lines of overpopulation when it comes to resources. Because if you're going in that same kind of thought experiment, right, same sort of thought process, in that example, there is no room for agriculture, there is no room for shops, there is no room for anything else other than people.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That does create a really interesting discussion.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think it's something that's definitely worth us talking about.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and join the stock experiment and get into it. Okay. 3, 2, 1. What's going on, everybody? I'm John,
And I'm Dennison.
and this is the catch up. All right. That sound good.
Oh
Sound
man.
good so far. Sound good.
Yeah.
Hope everybody's enjoying the live stream. Having a great Thursday, aka Friday Eve.
Mm-hmm.
Very cloudy. Whoa, hello. Very
It's
cloudy
cloudy
outside.
there.
Yeah. Oh, dude, it's been monsooning the past several days.
Oh, that's
Uh,
crazy.
we had record. Well, not record. We've had wild amount of rainfall. We had a tornado that destroyed a city right next to Wichita last week.
Good gosh.
Oh, did you not hear about that?
No, man. No, man. They got sent to Wizard of Oz. Sorry.
Thankfully, no one died. So yes, they probably did go to Wizard of Oz. Yeah, thank you. We just ride horses and eat wheat. That's it. um, no, it was actually, it was really crazy. Yeah, I don't know. We can talk about this on the podcast real fast. So,
Mhm.
our good friend of the show, Ronell,
Mm.
his apartment was hit by the tornado.
Oh gosh.
This tornado was an EF3, and it was so that's between 135 and 165 mile an hour winds. Anyway, he he was sleeping because he works overnight. He does
Mhm.
early morning shift, and he was sleeping when it hit. It didn't hit his apartment; it hit a couple units over.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, he got hit by this tornado. This tornado, this is amazing. This hit 1,000 buildings, structures. Okay, so that could be a shed included in that, right? Things like that.
Mhm.
No one died. No one died.
Wow.
And there were so many people that came around, or so many departments, emergency response departments, all that came from around surrounding areas. They were able to search each one of those structures twice, uh, just 24 hours later.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That
Yeah,
is. That's really
it's,
crazy.
it's nuts. And so, not very common for this to happen, but um, the storm, the clouds were very light behind it, so it was everybody was filming it. Like everybody went out and started filming this, dude. It was nuts, which you're not supposed to do,
Yeah.
by the
Yeah.
way. But yeah, so Ronell's okay, everybody's okay, which is good. There are still some people in the hospital from it, so there are some people struggling with that, but it was nuts, man. I can't believe that happened. And it was funny because I was on the west side of town celebrating our good friend Aaron's birthday.
Oh.
Yeah, and he turned 30 on Friday. Aaron Wandra, friend of the show. And he we started seeing these really dark clouds outside, and I was like, man, those have to be severe storms. So I was like, let me turn on the news. So I pull up YouTube TV,
Mhm.
and Yeah, they're broken in, but it's because they had literally just seen the tornado on one of their Skyview cameras, like plain as day. You could see it just funneled down and all that. And so
Wow.
I was like, oh man, it was wild. I mean, they were literally on air, I want to say for 5 hours straight, 4.5 hours straight.
Wow.
It's nuts. No commercials,
That is
nothing.
crazy.
Yeah. So that happened. Like I said, thankfully everybody's okay. Now, Kevin Ryder, another friend of the show, we've
Mm-hmm.
had on here multiple times. He was storm chasing with his girlfriend that day and actually took the opportunity to propose to her in
Wow.
front of a tornado. So,
That's a
literally,
magical moment right there.
magical moment, the most Kevin thing of all time. Only he could find a way to make that happen. Um, I'm very happy for him. So, congratulations to them both,
Mm-hmm.
he and his fiance Chelsea. Um, but yeah, it was wild. What a wild day. So yeah, definitely glad everybody's okay. But yeah, just off to Oz land, man. All of Andover went to Oz. It's kind of wild. Um, so yeah, look, before we jump into our topic, want to remind people of the three best ways to get in touch with us, contact us, connect with us, leave your topic suggestions, whatever's been trending in your world or been on your mind. Number one way is jump on the live stream with us. We're live on Facebook, live on YouTube right now.
Mm-hmm.
Jump on there, get in the comments, have a discussion with us in real time. Um, the number two way is to leave us a rating and review if you're listening on the audio platform. It'll let us know how we're doing, and it tells the algorithm to share it with more people, which helps us out as well. And then go to our website, nosignalrocks.com. This is linked wherever you're listening. And there's a drop down menu to get to the Catch Up Podcast. And you can find all of our audio, all of our video, all of our merch and apparel all in one place. Um, and if you want to support us financially, that is the best way to do it. So, with that
Mm-hmm.
said, man, this thought experiment is really interesting to me. And where my head immediately goes is not so much of the space we would share as people.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's all the other spots, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
all the open land around that. And I think that's what makes this interesting. And, um, obviously, this is never going to happen.
Well,
There's
of
too
course.
much disagreement in this world to put 7.9 billion people in one state, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what's interesting about that is think of what the world would do if we all centered ourselves in one place. I wonder what the impact would be from gas powered vehicles, for example, if it would be less because it was centralized or if it'd be
Mm-hmm.
more impactful because it's centralized. But um, without a doubt, nature would resurge everywhere,
Oh yeah.
everywhere. And I can't help but think how good for the planet and how good for we'd be having plentiful resources, I would imagine. Um,
I'm. I mean, I'll say if we can properly take care of the land, I think that's the big thing, right? Because it's like just because we're moving 7.9 billion people into, say, I don't know, the continental United States, which is actually a pretty big landmass. um if we were to move everybody into this one spot, right, that means we would technically have the rest of the world to be able to use for farming, all sorts of other stuff. But that's if we properly utilize that, right? And that's
sure.
the other thing too. It's like, I don't know. Because I think that still doesn't solve fully the resource issue. It'll be far more resource intensive in those specific areas. But I do see where you're coming from,
Yeah. Well, you'd have to again maintain the land and harvest it and do all that stuff.
though. Hmm.
But what I mean, what are your thoughts? What are the initial things that come to your mind when you hear about, this discussion?
I think it's kind of interesting. It's really interesting because I did see like another study where they did do like the continental United States. Now, at the time when they did this study, I think the Earth's population was at 7.5 billion people, which is still a lot, but
Yeah, right.
um, and they said if they fit the entire or the entire world's population in the continental United States, uh,
Sure.
each person would get somewhere around uh, 2.3 acres. But I think in some ways they also kind of changed it around to where it would actually probably be a little bit less than that, maybe closer to like an acre.
Mhm.
Um, which is not bad,
Not
everybody
bad.
gets an acre of land. That'd be pretty awesome.
That'd be
I
fair.
think, yeah, yeah. I mean, I think the effects of it could be really, really good if, but I think this is in a utopia, right? Because I think the effects of it could be really good because it can make it to where um, most people, like most user or most people who are in there or whatever like that, we're all forced to live together. We're all forced to live um, in the same space, and so we should, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Is we should be better to each other because there is no other place to go, but that
Yeah.
we all know that that doesn't fully happen, but that is one of the bigger things that can come out of it. um it's interesting.
Yeah.
uh
100%. Yeah, I wonder if there is kind of that situation. There are two different types of neighbors. There are the neighbors that like to confront other neighbors just because there's nothing that neighbor can do anything about it. Then there's people that are like, well, we have to get along because we're neighbors, right? So
mhm.
I wonder what that would do on a global scale if we
Yeah,
all had to be near each other, you know.
yeah.
Um, I mean, yeah, I don't know. Like, you think of countries like Iran.
Mhm,
Um, what would they do if they were bordered with us? What would Russia do if they were bordered with the US? How would that play
mhm.
out? It'd be totally different. Of course, it'd be totally different. But would it be peaceful or more combative? Who knows? But yeah, it is an interesting thought. And I think that, uh, again, where I go to is how it would benefit the planet overall to put everyone in one place. Now, I remember doing a study a while ago. We're at almost 8 billion people right now.
Mhm,
Um, the Earth can healthily sustain just over 11 billion people.
mhm.
And the good news about that, you think, okay, so what, in the 60s we reached 2 billion people, was it?
uh sure. I'm not even gonna lie
Yeah.
and say like, yeah, but I feel
I
like
would
we
have,
were higher than 2
well,
billion people, but I might be wrong.
um,
We might be wrong.
I'll take a look here.
Okay.
Since 1960, population growth since 1960. So, um, world population growth.
Well, where are we
Where
at?
I'm going with this,
Mhm.
so it is okay, 1 billion in 1800 to
Okay.
7.9 billion today. But um, what's interesting is how uh, it kind of spiked in the past 100 years. So
Mhm.
especially, so let's see here, we got
Probably due
2
to
billion in,
advancements and stuff.
well, and the baby boomer generation, although that
Yeah.
was mostly a United States thing, of course. But 3 billion in 1960, 4 billion in 1975, 5 billion in 1987, 6 billion in 99, 7 billion in 2011, and 7.9 billion in 2022. So almost every 12 years we add another billion people, right?
Yeah.
So does that mean that in 36 years, the Earth, we will have reached our peak to what the Earth could sustain? Here's what I mean by that too. If we go over that limit, we're talking mass starvation. We're talking lack of places for people to live, lack of water resources, not enough healthcare resources, things like that. Okay.
Mhm.
So, are we talking 36 years? You and I will be in our 60s, man. We'll just retire. How awesome is that?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so will that be the issue? Actually, no, because if you look at the population growth chart, um, it is declining, right?
Mm-hmm. It's slowing down. Yeah,
Yeah.
very much
Which
so.
why is that?
Well, if you notice too, if you look into like a lot of the bigger population growth where it's slowing down as well as like declining, is it's all first, well, I shouldn't say it's all, but a lot of them are first world countries. Um, and uh, I think there was a study done that was saying that the one of the contributing factors, or one of the factors that they believe are a contributing factor to this, is that as there are higher advancements in technology and people have more access to more resources, it also incurs a higher cost of living. And
Mhm.
with that higher cost of living, um, as well as the difference in like needs, right? Uh, there is less of a need to have more children and
Yeah.
more of a need to just have fewer
Money.
children because that's what you can actually afford, right? It becomes a money issue. As well as you don't need kids to till the fields
Sure.
because you're not, you're not a farmer anymore, so you don't need them to
Right.
help out with the farm and milk the cows and uh, plow the fields, all that good stuff.
Sure. And on top of that, kind of what you're saying is the baseline for necessities is going up, right? The baseline
Mm-hmm.
cost for that is increasing, which is crazy, and it's true. And it's not just inflation. I mean, it does impact inflation, but as things become more advanced, you're right. It's basically what you just said. It becomes more expensive. So what we're looking at here is this world population forecast. Okay, this is done by the United Nations, and
Mm.
let's see, view population projections for all years up to 2100. Let's go to 2100.
Okay.
Ooh, we're closing in 10.8 billion, right?
Wow. Yeah, but that's
10.8.
that's that's just getting to 2100, which is crazy, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because it
So
took that long just to get up to 10 bill.
so 36 years from now, like we talked about, we're looking at about 10 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So it will cross that mark in about 34 years from now. But
Mm-hmm.
this is, you know, what's interesting, and it is slowing down. It's because of that. It's because our generation just flat out is not having kids as much,
Mm-hmm.
which I think again you're right. It comes down to the finances. It's the same reason people in our generation are living at home longer and more.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, because of financial constraints. The things that I think could impact this though are mass genocides, obviously,
Yeah.
um, and hopefully that'll never happen. But also, I think it could impact it the opposite way, and that is um, propaganda to
Mm.
have more kids. hmm Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
propaganda. That is what happened with the baby boomer generation, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so I think that there certainly could be that if we find United States population declining versus China, Russia, these other countries, India,
Mm-hmm.
um, I could certainly see a push for people to have more babies. Um, so it's interesting. But with that said, the point of this discussion is we should not reach anytime soon that peak where the world can't sustain us anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, I don't think we would at all. Going back to that, I think it's. I also heard that there was someone saying that it's essentially um, we sustain ourselves, or I should say, not sustain, but regulate ourselves just instinctively to get
Mm,
to a certain point, and then it ends up just declining down to keep that, to maintain the specific point. And you can we kind of saw that in like the chart that you had, where it hits 10 billion, but then it kind of sustains, it slows down, right, to
yeah.
a point. And it kind of makes sense in general because uh, as you grow your population, the resources start to get more and more tight. And
Sure.
so again, it goes back to cost of living. When resources are tighter, they become more expensive and it's harder to afford them. And so you're going to have less children, right? Or you may not have kids because of those tight constraints. And, another thing too, for like our generation, which is interesting, is that we've or I should say, our generation has been through a lot of like economic disasters, which has also stunted our economic potential.
Mm,
Um, where some of the other generations may have had some economic disasters, but not to the same degree. Um, and so that also affects, again, our birth rate because of that. So it's just a interesting kind of conundrum.
oh yeah, for sure. Well, and yeah, it's just something that's always going to change and really is unpredictable overall. What is interesting, the urban population, 1/3 of the world would live in an urban population. This is actually what's interesting to me. If you look at, I know I don't have it on the screen right now, but the first of all, the yearly percentage change that we had was 1.10% in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
By 2050, the yearly percentage change is cut in half, 0.53%, like we were
Wow.
talking. But the urban population right now is about 3.5 million less, or I'm sorry, 300 million less. Uh, no, gosh darn it, man. I'm not used to reading big numbers. This is why I write words, not numbers. Uh, 3.5 billion less with a B, like Dr.
Mm-hmm.
Evil, less than the world population. That's how many people live in the urban population. So 4.3 billion people live in an urban setting.
Wow.
Um, that number will obviously increase by 2050, projected to.
Mm-hmm.
However, the difference is still 3.1 billion. So
Yeah.
not that many more people, percentage wise, are moving to the city. They're going to stay in rural areas. I don't know how you forecast that. Um, but yeah, urban population percentage right now is about 56.2%. I guess that is a big percentage jump though, 68.6%.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, man. I kind of feel like owning land um is gonna be a premium
Yeah.
in years to come,
Yeah.
I really
I
do.
I think so too, but I think it'll also, owning land with resources. I think that's still going to be probably one of the biggest things, is because, it goes back to, less of trying to find space, right? Because, again, it kind of goes back to our early example of, it's less about space and more about resources,
Yeah.
right? And again, I was looking at one of the studies, and they were saying like, you know, a decent portion of the world is taken up by deserts, right?
Yeah.
Of
No.
land, and that's land that is not usable,
And it's growing.
uninhabitable. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, and it's growing exactly with climate change and stuff, as well as like mountainous ranges and stuff like that, which you can't really truly build on those either. And so,
Sure.
they're the plot. So land is important, but I think it still also goes back to like resources. Land and resources are probably one of the biggest things that are going to become incredibly important in the future.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I think we had a good discussion on this. We certainly
Hmm.
could have kept going on it. There's no question about that. But we both have places to get to on this particular night. So We're glad we were able to get this one in. Thank you guys for jumping on the live stream. I know we had some viewers tonight. And thank you so much, Micah. It was right.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Micah, for submitting this topic. Again, if you're listening, feel free to submit the topic wherever you're watching or listening from. If it's a rating review or a comment or even a direct message, feel free to direct message us wherever you're listening. Or email us at theketchupcast@gmail.com. So, yeah, man, this was a good one. And I really am glad that we were able to have it. We'll be back at our regular time next week, as we normally are. And we will have a whole new topic then. So, again, be sure to submit. And we can't wait to catch up with you next week.